Have you ever watched a movie and thought to yourself, wow, imagine if this happened in the real world? Well, I had that thought when me and my girlfriend watched World War Z recently, a zombie apocalypse movie starring Bratt, Pitt and Mireille Enos, a husband and wife trying to survive and find answers in a world where everything has changed. Today, we will be taking a deep, hard look at what makes World War Z so disturbing. World War Z is a 2013 zombie apocalypse movie starring Brad Pitt as Jerry Lane, the husband of Karen Lane, his wife, played by Mireille Enos. Before we get into the plot of the story, I want to point out the introduction real quick for a second. Notice how we are constantly shown people wearing masks, people in crises, and how we are shown groups. Groups of people, groups of animals and insects, and how those groups move around together and work together. There's talk of diseases and illnesses, and we even see Michio Kaku, a very famous scientist. And in the most important part, I would say, notice how we are shown a lot of scenes of rabid animals or animals attacking one another. I think this is the introduction foreshadowing what is about to happen in this film. How zombies are going to be attacking people and turning them into zombies. Moving on to the plot, Jerry and his family live in Philadelphia with their 2 daughters, and all looks fine and well, with the daughters waking them up, them having breakfast together and playing guessing games in the car on their way to school. Why are there so many? It's like 3 in the last 5 minutes, is the question Karen asks, as we see a helicopter fly by above them and people start running on the sidewalk. Here is where things start to go downhill very fast. Jerry puts on the radio, only to hear the host tell them that the WHO has tracked an outbreak of rabies that began in Taiwan, and it's in more than 12 countries. As a police officer drives past Jerry's car, he was too close to the car and he broke his side view mirror. Jerry gets out, of course, and another police officer on a bike coming from behind him tells him to get back in his vehicle. And out of nowhere, a truck also comes from behind and destroys, annihilates the officer and his bike. Now, this part doesn't make any sense to me because we see the street behind them is jam-packed and the street is in the shape of a T. But as soon as the police officer speaks, a truck comes out of nowhere and demolishes the whole area, and all with incredible speed as well. We can see the truck is clearly on the opposite lane of Jerry, and yet we didn't hear any crashing or smashing right before this incident. By the way, the moment the officer told Jerry to get into his car and the truck appearing was 3 seconds. That scene makes no sense in my opinion. And then there's the fact that the road is in a T-shape, so how did that giant vehicle turn the speed it did without losing speed or tumbling over? All of this is just from my observation though, something that I picked up on. But anyways, Jerry takes this opportunity to follow the truck and get out of traffic, out of the situation. They eventually end up having an accident and they have to go on foot. Here, Jerry sees firsthand how insanely disturbing and insane this zombie outbreak is. It took a man 12 seconds to fully transform into a mindless puppet for the disease. They eventually get a vehicle again and they hit the road, and on this ride, someone by the name of Fury calls, and it's insinuated that they have known each other for years. Fury needs Jerry's help, and they come up with a plan to meet somewhere. In the meantime, Jerry and the family head to a supermarket called NJ Mart, which, by the way, stands for New Jersey Mart, where they stocked up on some meds for one of the daughters. Jerry sees the pharmacist laying lifeless on the ground with a hooded man standing over the body. Here, the hooded man tells Jerry that these meds helped his child as well. So this man has a child, huh? We will get back to this later on into the video. Anyways, Karen is in trouble and Jerry comes over to help. Karen tells the men that, quote, "Get off me, it's all I had," which is probably money she's referring to, but these men were clearly looking for something more. Jerry ends up shooting one of the men and the other one gets away, and here is where I noticed something. The police officer came up running, slowed down and looked at Jerry and the guy on the ground and ran along to a shelf which held baby food and formulas. We will also get back to this later on into the video. Jerry and his family eventually gets to an apartment building where they will meet Fiery on the roof when the sun rises the next day. Notice how the homeless man wasn't attacked? Interesting. They find a family in one of the apartments and they wait there with them till the next day. On their way to the roof, the family they rested with were attacked and turned into zombies, with only the boy surviving. He joins Jerry and the family and they leave the area on the helicopter. They are taken to a giant airship carrier out at sea, and it's here where Jerry is told that he has to join forces again, or else him and his family and the boy will be kicked off the ship. Jerry accepts and goes with a virologist and other men to a location to find more info on patient 0. Long story short, the virologist ends up panicking and gets himself unalived, and many other follow the same route. Take note how clearly panicked this guy was the moment he stepped outside the plane and saw the zombies firsthand. It's crazy to me that this virologist was on the airship carrier and he seemed so confident. He seemed so sure of himself that he will go out with Jerry and the soldiers and everything will be fine and he'll get all the info and there will be no issues. He seems so sure of himself that he has no fears in him. Yet the moment he stepped outside of the plane and saw it firsthand, what it looks like, the sounds, it immediately panicked him and he ended up fumbling and passing. Which just goes to show it's easier to stand on the sidelines and think to yourself, oh, I will be able to survive this. I will be able to do this. I will be able to do that. It's so easy to make up all these scenarios in your head where you are powerful and you are not scared. But when you actually end up in the situation, you panic and you realize, oh no, I made a huge mistake. This is not what I imagined. I thought this was going to be different. You end up panicking, you end up making horrible mistakes, and you end your life. Very interesting thing I have noticed. They did get some info, but now Jerry had to go to Jerusalem, Israel, to find out how they were able to withstand the outbreak and how they built a wall right before all of this happened. It definitely sounds suspicious, almost like this outbreak was planned somehow. Unfortunately, the whole city ends up being overrun by zombies due to people singing and the noises inside the walled area being too loud. How did Israel know the outbreak was happening, causing them to prepare by building a wall? Well, they overheard an Indian general telling others that they were fighting Ireksasha, meaning zombie. So due to this, they built a giant wall while the whole world was oblivious. Interesting. I'll get more into detail with this wall story later on. Anyways, here in Israel, once again, we see something. An old man and a young boy, both not being attacked by any zombies. What's the deal with these zombies being biased and attacking everyone but excluding certain people? Jerry gets on an airplane with a soldier he saved the life of, and they were on their way to a WHO facility, as Jerry might have figured out how this outbreak can be stopped. A zombie somehow got on the airplane, and in a last-ditch effort to survive, Jerry threw a grenade and blew a giant hole in the plane, and they crashed. Luckily, Jerry and the soldiers survived, and they make their way to the WHO building. Due to the plane crash, Fury and the sea ship lost contact with Jerry, and they thought the worst had happened. So they kicked his family and the young boy off of the ship and sent them to a safe house in Nova Scotia. Jerry has figured out that the reason why the homeless man, the old man, and the young boy were left alone by the zombies was due to them being sick. Perhaps the homeless man had liver disease or kidney failure or some sort of organ failure. The old man, some sort of disability, and the young boy cancer? Perhaps. All of this means that they weren't healthy, of course, and for this plague to spread, the host needs to be healthy. So according to these findings by Jerry and the scientists at the WHO facility, everyone on Earth needs to be injected with a disease like a flu or something. A very small, non-lethal dose to trick the zombies into thinking everyone is sick and isn't worthy of carrying the zombie plague. Maybe by infecting the people, they could survive and stand up to the zombies. With a lot of effort, Jerry managed to be the first test subject, and it was a massive success. This led to everyone on Earth getting injected with something that's mild and that we have a vaccine of. Humanity stood up to the zombies and the plague was stopped. So let's start with my breakdown of key parts in this film. First things first, like I mentioned at the start of the video, the intro of the movie seems to be hinting at what the movie is all about. The way the animals attacked one another, the people walking around doing their thing, talk of diseases, it's all a preparation of what's to come. Remember that guy who was bit, and while he was laying on the ground, there was a 12-second countdown before he turned into a zombie? Well, on 12, there was a kid saying either train rammed the station or train in the station, or something along those lines. Where could this possibly be from? Well, seeing how Jerry has two daughters and one of them is very young, she most likely watched her cartoons with her parents, and in this moment, Jerry thought to count how long it would take for the person to become a zombie, and the first thing that came to mind for him was a countdown from a cartoon he saw. The only cartoon or kid show I can think of this could be from is Thomas and Friends, seeing how the show is all about trains and stations, and this countdown talks about both those things, and it's a child giving the countdown? Perhaps. Next, the three key people throughout the movie who weren't attacked by the zombies. The first man on the street probably had some sort of liver disease or organ failure of some kind, making him not suitable for zombification. The old man in Jerusalem that kept looking around him. To be honest, I think this man might have been blind. Now hear me out. The way he looked frantically around him, like he doesn't know what's going on around him or he doesn't know where he is. To drive home this idea is the fact that everyone around him is running, even old people, yet he is not. If he could see, he would have ran just like everyone else. Due to him being blind, he was left out by the zombies, because even when you are a zombie, you still have to be able to see your targets. And since he wouldn't be able to as a zombie, he isn't worthy. The last one, the young boy. When I saw him, I immediately thought cancer. Cancer typically means no hair. Not all the time, but typically it does. So due to him having cancer, he isn't up to standards for zombification. Isn't it crazy how even diseases can be like humans? When someone is different, we exclude them in everything we can. treat them badly, or unfriend them. Here, the disease does the exact same thing. Since these three people are different, they are excluded from the hive mind, which is the zombies. Remember the guy in the mart who gave Jerry the medication? Well, apparently in that scene, he said he has a child. Behind him was laying the pharmacist, lifeless. Now my question is this guy a medication abuser and the pharmacist wanted to stop him and he didn't allow that to happen? Or perhaps he wanted to get medication for his child after all, but the pharmacist tried to stop him as it's considered stealing even though it's an apocalypse? Perhaps. If it is the latter, then that just goes to show how far people are willing to go, all in a pursuit to save or help their loved ones, even if it means taking the lives of others. Next, we have the police officer. This shows us how frail the justice system is, and not just the justice system. Things and positions we put into place. In an instant, all of these things can crumble, making them useless. Look at what happened with the recent outbreak of COVID-19 and how everything around us broke down and we had problems, showing us how truly frail everything we've built are. The way the police officer came running, stopped and looked at the scene in front of him and just said inwardly most likely, "Screw it, I don't have time for this," and he ran over to the shelf with baby food and formulas on it to take some of it to his child is just crazy to me. I mean, it does make sense, right? What kind of police officer in an apocalypse would run up to everyone and arrest them, or attempt to arrest them, for quote-unquote stealing? Nobody would, because firstly, where do you take those people? Not jail, because in that moment, jails, courts, and the justice system doesn't exist. It's part of the old world. It's kind of scary to think about and to see this scene. How easily things can fall apart and everything we thought was invincible suddenly becomes something you can just throw away. Having a police officer badge is more than just having a badge. It's about the honor. It's about the principle of the thing. Yet in this situation, the badge, with the duty of a justice system and its honor stuck to it, gets thrown away as if they were nothing. This scene was the one that struck me the most and what led me to want to make this video, cause I found it to be so deep and thought-provoking. I just had to talk about it. Now, the Israel war in the movie. There is no way on earth that could have been built in less than a year, which would mean this plague has been going on for more than a few years? That's insane to think about. That people could have been fighting it and trying to suppress it so long away from the world population. I went to Google to see if anyone else had a similar thought as mine. How the wall could have been built this fast and how long it would have taken. This person said, quote, "Israel's borders, not including coastline, are approximately 767 kilometers in length. If the zombies can swim across the Dead Sea or Red Sea, add about another 90 kilometers to cover those coastlines." So according to this person, who I fully agree with by the way, says if Israel had the manpower and resources, it would take years to build, not less than 2 or 3 years, which means that the version of Israel in the movie must have had a pre-built wall already in place before the news of the outbreak came out. That means that the wall around Israel would have probably been half the size we see when Jerry arrives. And when they heard about the zombies from the Indian general, they decided to extend the wall to the height we see, which would make sense then. And that would have probably taken about a year or maybe a few months, which still is insane to think about. The fact that the zombie plague was kept silent that long while it slowly started picking up speed, destroying countries without the rest of the world even knowing. Okay, So apparently, there is a thing called the 10th man rule, and this wall was built in 10 days? How? That's crazy. What is this rule? Well, apparently, if you have a group of 10 people, right, and 9 of those agree on something, that there is an issue, the 10th person should take the stance against the other 9 and assume they are wrong and give proof they are wrong. Now, there are an opposite to this, of course. If the first 9 people all agree that something is not wrong and doesn't need solving, then the 10th person needs to be the opposite and give proof to substantiate his claim that there is an issue and it needs to be fixed. In real life, Israel does have something like this in place, but it's not called the 10th man rule. From Reddit, I found this interesting little tidbit. That walkway in the movie we saw was built by this person's dad and his work partner. I want to end this video on something that really struck me as well, apart from the police officer scene. And not just me, it did my girlfriend as well, and many others on Reddit. The wall scene. Oh my goodness, what an insanely disturbing scene. Think about this for a second. These people had to snoop around to find out about the outbreak and to prepare. Hundreds, if not thousands of worker men had to work in the scorching sun day in and day out to build this wall. To not just protect themselves, but their family, friends and neighbors. They went through all this effort, made sure to prepare at all times with guards and weapons ready to be fired on command, only for them to slip up and get cocky and careless. They made so much noise that it asked for the attention from the zombies, leading to the zombies climbing the wall and causing Israel to fall. That is so sad, going through all that effort, being the last bastion of human preparation and dedication, only to let the ball fumble. This scene was incredible, I have to say. The way the zombies climb over each other, fall, but staying determined to get over it is so insane to me. As someone mentioned on a question website, you can see that the soldiers inside the wall were ready and trying their absolute best to fend off the zombies, but failed. Now, you might be thinking that the helicopter that flew to the outside shooting at the zombies made no sense. There should have been more. How could there be only one helicopter in such a prepared place? Well, I'm here to tell you that it's possible and it makes sense. The people became so complacent, cocky and reckless that when the zombies started coming for them, they came so fast that they had no time to prepare fast enough to send more soldiers out of helicopters. It's sad to see them be so well prepared before the outbreak started, yet when it did, they let their guards down, literally too, and the zombies broke through their defenses. We see another climbing scene at the end of this film when the zombies tried climbing an apartment building and the people there used flamethrowers to get rid of the zombies. Is this climbing thing that the zombies did even possible? Well, yes, in real life it is. Not to this extent we see in the movie, of course, but a small part of it has been done in real life and is still being done. Would it be possible for zombies to do this at this scale? Well, I would say yes. Would the tower crumble faster and easier? Yes, of course, due to their minds being gone and all they think of is attacking the people, making them not think to build the tower correctly. Believe me, the determination of zombies would allow them to do anything. What an amazing movie. Legit one of my favorite zombie movies of all time. I love this movie. It was so disturbing to me, and I want to thank all of you for coming to this huge movie rant. I hope I sparked some curiosity in you through this video, and if you have anything to add or you want to share your thoughts and opinions, feel free to do so down below in the comments. I also want to thank my girlfriend for giving her thoughts and ideas when we watched the movie, as some of the things I mentioned was not only seen and thought of by me, but she saw them too and agreed to what I saw. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, share with your family and friends who might be interested as well. Tap the like button and subscribe to soothe that fascination.